Ren is a very popular character, and Unumi is generally one of the most well-regarded episodes of Love Live. Both of these are for very good reason. Rin is incredibly endearing, an outgoing tomboy catgirl with very relatable identity and image issues. Unumi both gives her some much-needed focus and development, but also is just one of the best episodes of the series story-wise. A lot of viewers interpret Rin's story as one of a trans girl finding herself, and with the help of her friends finding the strength to come out and be herself. Others just see it as what the text itself says, a tomboy learning to embrace her femininity, how she wants to, even if it's not what's expected of her. Whatever side of the fence you're on, there's a lot to love about this story, and I think it has a very strong message as well. During the early parts of Season 1, Rin doesn't really do much. In the first 3 episodes, she's the least prominent of the main characters, besides maybe Nico. She's Hanyo's more outgoing friend, but that's mostly it. Her biggest contribution is being the reason Hanyo is late for the concert in episode 3. In episode 4, Maki Rinpana, she finally gets some focus, and we learn a lot more about her, including some of her flaws and insecurities. After the events of episode 3, Rin is trying to encourage Hanyo to join the idol club, since she really clearly wants to. Hanyo proposes that if Rin is so adamant about her joining, maybe they could join together. Rin immediately shoots this down, and quickly turns to self-deprecation and explain why, saying she's not the idol type, but pointing out her boyish short hair. We then get a flashback to when the pair were kids. Hanyo is complimenting a skirt Rin is wearing, then 2 other kids come by and mock her for it, asking why the tomboy is wearing a skirt. Rin then gets upset and runs home to change. Maki Rinpana in general explores the insecurities that affect the first years, and are ultimately the main reasons they're each hesitant to join the club and become idols. Hanyo's is her shyness and lack of confidence, Maki's is her loneliness, and the pressure she feels when the expectations of her parents don't line up with her true passions, and of course Rin's is self-identity and image issues. After talking to Maki, Hanyo says aloud what's basically the entire episode's theme: everyone has their own issues. After, we get a little montage where all their issues are highlighted. Maki through watching the Start Dash performance while clearly longing to be a part of it, Hanyo looking at old photos, thinking about her dreams of becoming an idol, and Rin trying to get herself to put on a dress she has while alone in her room. Small detail that may have been completely unintentional, but the dress Rin holds here resembles what would eventually become her training outfit at the end of A New Me in Season 2, which is a neat attention to detail, even if it was entirely unintentional. Of course, the first years, including Rin, all end up joining at the end of the episode. After this, Rin's issues aren't really focused on in Season 1, but they're brought back full force in A New Me. With Honoka, Umi, and Kotori away on a class trip, and Ellie and Nozomi busy covering the student council work in their absence, Rin is put in charge of group practices. She is incredibly against doing it, saying she's not fit to be the leader at all, but the others stand by the decision. Her nervousness at the position is very clearly shown, with her barely being able to run practice coherently the first time, and crumbling the second Nico and Maki start arguing. After said disaster of practice, Hanyo and Maki try to talk to her, but Rin just gets mad, emphasizing how she's not a real idol like them, and isn't fit to be a leader of the group. She's fine off to the side, wearing the same thing and blending in with everyone else, but she's not fit to be the leader. She's boyish, not cute and girly like they are. Rin storms off, and Hanyo tells Maki what we had seen in the flashback previously, even using some of the same footage. However, Hanyo's recount provides some important details. She says how Rin was always teased by the other kids when they were younger for being a tomboy, but whenever she tried to experiment with her presentation, she would just get teased by the same kids even more. The whole thing makes it pretty clear to the viewer, and probably Maki in universe, that those experiences destroyed Rin's confidence in herself, and confused her in terms of how she prefers to present herself, making her probably even more confused because what's expected of her leads to all attempts at figuring it out just getting her made fun of more. Hanyo says she thought Rin had been able to move past it once they got to high school, but now realizes she hasn't. Things are made even worse for Rin when the group is to perform at a fashion show, and with the second year's return delayed, the 6 remaining girls are to perform with Rin as the center. and the center is supposed to wear a fancy wedding dress. Rin is obviously terrified and tries to pull every excuse she can to get out of it, claiming how she's not the idol type once more, and eventually succeeds at pawning it off on Hanyo. However, just as she's about to leave, she ends up not being able to look away for a moment as Hanyo is getting fitted, clearly wishing it could be her. We then see Rin at home, once more trying to try on a dress while alone in her room, but unable to bring herself to. Meanwhile, Hanyo calls Tonika to talk about the situation, unsure how to handle it. Hanyo knows what Rin truly wants, even if Rin won't let herself admit it, and so the group decides to go through with her being the center. Despite Rin's reluctance, they all encourage her, and when she tries to say she's not girly enough, Hanyo snaps back in a very heterosexual way.
True, but it is true! I mean, I think you're cute, doesn't that matter? You're so cute I can squeeze you!
And so, with a push mirroring the one Rin gave Hanyo back in Maki Rinpana, Rin steps up to fill the role of center, with the crowd immediately thinking she's adorable. The episode is capped off with a performance of Lovewing Bell, a song Rin Seiyu has called a record of Rin-chan's maturing, with lyrics about how anyone can become cute, her questioning if it's okay for her to be feeling so happy, and reminding herself to stop worrying, cheer up, and focus on the future, and what kind of me she'll be tomorrow. All accompanied by visuals of Rin and Hanyo being adorable in what are basically a wedding dress and tuxedo, Rin finally building up the confidence to try on her new dress, and coming out to practice in her new outfit. Rin's story is one of discovering how she personally identifies and prefers to present herself, and how expectations and stereotypes have made that hard for her, and given her serious self-doubt and internal conflict. Rin is a tomboy, we see that from the beginning, but as Hanyo notes, she was mocked for that. It makes her different, and said bullying makes her insecure. We see that Rin has always had a feminine side as well, but because of expectations put on her, the idea that, well, if you're a tomboy, shouldn't you always be acting like one? She's never been able to let herself explore. One way or another, she feels like she has to fill other people's expectations. She's a tomboy, so then she can never be girly enough to be a real idol. She resigns herself to this fate and tries to act like it's a fact, but she's very clearly still hurt by it. One thing that's never addressed in universe, but I find really interesting, is that one of the main points Rin always brings up to put herself down and deride herself as not girly enough to be an idol, is her short hair. This is a common insecurity, and the stereotype of long hair being feminine while short hair is masculine is very common. But Hanyo has the second shortest hair in Muse, and it's only slightly longer than Rin's at that. It's slightly longer in the back, and a bit fuller on the sides, but the back still barely reaches her shoulders, and none of the rest comes very close at all. In fact, Rin's bangs are actually just a bit longer than hers too. To me, this silently reinforces that Rin's issues are all in her head, and resulting from the conflicting expectations she's constantly had placed on her. Even when we see the pair as kids, Hanyo's hair is still short, but because she's a shy and quiet girl who always tends to wear skirts, no one gets on her for not being girly enough. Unlike Rin, who does have a lot of tomboyish traits on the surface, Hanyo fits most stereotypes. As I've said, ultimately Rin's issues are a result of societal expectations never allowing her to truly just be herself. What finally allows Rin to break free from all of this is having a group of friends support her. Friends who ultimately care about what she wants, how she prefers to present herself and act, and what she wants to wear. Not what everyone expects her to be, but who she wants to be. Naturally, a ton of side media related to Rin builds on this storyline in different ways. One of her solo songs, included with the Season 2 Blu-rays in Japan, Kurin Miracle, basically acts as a follow-up to Ainu Me and Lovewing Bell. Starting with the line, I want to dance and celebrate the brand new me, it has Rin singing about how she's running down the path to girlhood from the starting point, and is unsure where the future will take her, but is excited to find out, now knowing that anyone, including her, can be cute. In one of her school idol diary stories, she's wishing she could wear more skirts in her idol outfits, and reflects on the fact that as kids, people thought her and Hanyo were a couple. And it's implied she didn't mind that people thought they were a couple, but that she didn't like that people thought that she was the boy. She ends up talking to Kotori, who not only agrees to give her more skirts, but helps her find a wig so she can experiment with having long hair. Rin proceeds to come to the club, wearing a new outfit and the wig, and pretending to be another girl. The others see through it easily, but go along with it still. She ends up deciding, after wearing the wig a couple times, both at practice and otherwise, that she's happy with her short hair. Though she also decides she really does enjoy mixing things up between shorts and skirts. Basically, the story builds on the ideas presented in the episode, with her having an environment where she can experiment with her appearance and figure out what makes her happy. I think there are a lot of reasons why this story resonates with so many trans fans, and why it's viewed as a pseudo-queer coming-out story in general. As I've said plenty of times, it's about Rin dealing with gender stereotypes and expectations, and breaking free from the molds people try to trap her in. For what should be obvious reasons, this is an experience that would hit close to home for trans individuals. Being trans means being forced to explore what your identity is and how you prefer to present a lot more than is usually normal, and dealing with a lot of shit in the process. Many trans women, and trans individuals in general, have probably experienced what Rin has, being bullied for not fitting the stereotypes assigned to one gender, but then when they try and experiment and find what actually makes them happy, including through in some ways adhering to the stereotypes of the gender they prefer or think they prefer presenting as, they're met with backlash at not being that enough, and people then using that to invalidate them. It's frustrating, and the fact it can lead to so much emotional baggage is what makes it so meaningful for individuals who've experienced the struggle to see Rin overcome it. To see her finding an environment where she's supported and surrounded by people who just want her to be able to figure out what makes her happy gives them hope that maybe one day they'll find that too. And through seeing their experiences depicted on screen in general, it helps them know that it's not completely abnormal to have to find yourself like she did. Notice I switched to saying individuals who experience the struggle rather than just trans women or trans people in general in that last bit. This video is a remake of my very first video essay, and an effort to try and improve on the points I made there, which was basically just going, oh my god, she's literally trans, guys, over and over again, which is not at all what my style has become. Which has basically left that video as a weird outlier on my channel, despite being one of my most popular ones. On that video, I received a couple comments claiming it was tomboy erasure, which was never my intention. But I also received comments from tomboys and other cis women saying how they related to Rin's story and how much it meant to them. A lot also adding how it was nice hearing some of the ways it reached others. I think that's the most important thing here. Whether Rin is canonically a trans girl or a cis tomboy ultimately doesn't really matter. Yes, getting a canonically trans idol in Love Live would be neat. But what Rin has in her pants, or what was marked on her birth certificate when she was born, doesn't change the story they tell with her. As I've said, Rin's story is one of an individual who needs people who just accept her for her and want her to be happy, so she can figure out for herself what she prefers, rather than fitting any societal expectations or specific labels like tomboy or girly idol 24/7. That's something I think a ton of trans and cis people can relate to. No, more accurately, it's something a lot of trans and cis fans do relate to, and that just shows how strong and unifying her story's message is. A lot of people get caught up in canon to a really annoying degree. Well, clearly she's not trans, so you can't see her that way. Stop projecting. No, clearly she is. You're just a bigot. Sometimes you want to tell both people arguing to shut up and get off your Twitter timeline. Or I guess X now. Going back to the whole tomboy erasure argument I mentioned earlier, I think that's rooted in a lot of the same forcing individuals into boxes this story is so firmly against. Well, because a guy can't be feminine anymore, or a girl can't be a tomboy because now they have to be trans, is the sort of sentiment I hear a lot, and it's bullshit. But I also see the opposite disturbingly often too. Oh, a boy has some feminine traits, or a girl has some masculine ones? Good luck on your transition, we'll be here for you when your egg cracks. It's frustrating. So frustrating. It's exactly the sort of thing Rin was getting frustrated and hurt by. It's behavior that ultimately hurts cis and trans people. There's nuance to all of this. People don't necessarily fit one mold. Like Rin, they have their own preferences, and like with Rin, it's important to let people find out what makes them happy. Hell, part of why I relate to Rin's story so much is knowing the pressure of trying to navigate all these expectations, stereotypes, and views other people have of you, when really you just need support so you can figure it out yourself. And how incredible it feels to finally get that. Hanyu and the others don't just decide, well, Rin, you want to wear this dress, clearly you're a super girly girl, give up your pants forever, and whether you like it or not right now. We're repeatedly shown they want Rin to wear the dress because she's shown she wants to, even if she won't admit it. At the end of the episode, when Rin comes out to practice in her new skirt, she ultimately does a pose and a let's start, yeah? Oh god. She's still Ren. She's always seen herself as a girl, and she's always had some boyish traits and preferences, but now she's free to find what she prefers. I feel like I haven't touched much on a lot of the little things that people see as trans in Rin's story. I'll link my old video if you want to see more of that, I guess. But my main goal this time around was to try and look at the bigger picture. To look at this wonderful story of gender identity and discovery, of finding what makes you happy and supporting others to help them do the same. Whether you headcanon Ren as trans or see her as just a cis tomboy, either is perfectly valid. Both their interpretations fit the story presented very well, and relate to its themes of gender identity and finding what your identity means to you, outside the boxes and stereotypes you're forced in. I cannot stress enough how much I love Rin's story. Any way you interpret it or relate to it is valid. And if in any way it's helped you, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Just remember, whatever side of the fence you're on, don't be a dick.